Lesson 10. In a cool down section. Page 64. Recap, and then we'll do the cool down portion. The top of page 64 says the difference between Habakkuk and us is we typically don't take our complaints to God. Not many of us, and it's definitely the way we've been trained. We don't complain to God unless we're upset about a certain situation, right? And that complaint generally stems from something not happening or we're not getting what we want when we want. And then we just complain about it. We just say, why me? That usually come out. Why me? Why can I? Why they can and I can't? What's the problem? Those kinds of things are things of complaints. But Habakkuk was complaining about something spiritual, the deterioration of his people and their relationship with God, and what's going on, what's taking you so long, what's happening. Look at the things that are going on around us. Are you going to do something about that? And just the way God is with his timetable, God let things just happen when he's silent. It's not like he's blind, but he's silent. And we as humanity will quickly get ourselves into trouble when God is not intervening. When God is not intervening. And God knows how to fix anything and everything, so he just watch us get into bigger and bigger trouble. Take the report that we got on Monday about the world in which we live in. Now, this is nothing new. Scientists have been saying this for I don't know how long, as long as I've been listening to scientists. Scientists are, with their expertise and all the data and all the painstaking work they do, and when they go out and live in certain places and, develop different kinds of technology, they say that, the world at some point will come to an end. Now, that's not nothing new. And they have given out, a lot of information for us to stop doing. You know how dangerous carbon monoxide is. There is a ceiling by which we live under, and everybody knows that. If you've gone to school for any length of time, you have studied scientists' stars' atmosphere, and you know that we can't keep pushing stuff upwards and it stays there without affecting our everyday life. That's just the way it is. Okay, so that's a fact. So when we start getting data that proves that, some people are in denial and some people are not. Some people are trying to get serious about some of the cause and effects of what we have done. You see some windmills when you go upstate New York, you go to Rhode Island, and you go to certain places, you start seeing more technology. You get out into the Midwest. Wyoming is the state now for alternative energy, among other states that are really, really trying to do better. We got our electric cars and our automated cars right on the horizon. It's right here. They're going to start manufacturing those out for sale as soon as they can get us as a consumer to buy them and be comfortable with the price tag. So we are going in the right direction. But the immorality that we face as a people, as a nation, as a world power, and then as countries around the world, we can honestly say that things are not getting any better. Amen. It's just that the more and more people are born into this world, the more and more generation after generation, things get harder and harder. We have outgrown our ability to take care of ourselves and feed ourselves. It is just too many people on this planet. It's just simple as that. Our cities are bursting at the seams all over the world. We are genetically modifying food. We cannot solve the problem that we have right now. And the more and more we turn from God, the more and more Satan is going to run the world and impose his darkness on the world, and you can get the things that you get right now. So the church should really be praying, and individuals should be really praying for people, because our fight is not with flesh and blood. And we have to understand that we need to be concerned about the things that God is concerned about. And Christians should be concerned about the neighborhood they live in, the town and the communities that they live in, the state that they live in, the government that they're under. We should be concerned about this. We should earnestly pray, like Peter tells us, for our government, our elected officials, and we should vote. We should do all those kinds of things to try to make life better. You know, this is a process that we have in this country, and this is something that we should be concerned about. And it should be easier now for us to share our faith, because so much of the world and what's going on around us is anti-good. It's just anti-good. So Christians should be able to have a dialogue with people every single day to help them get through some of the things that are going on in their world. Jesus' earthly ministry, and I know, you know, when we come together on Sunday, we are so pro worship, and we should be. But Jesus wanted our everyday worship to God to be a reflection of who God is, so we can show the world a different way of life. And that's all he wanted. That's all he imposed on us, and in his friendship to the world. Well, for us to illuminate the world, have fun being a Christian, enjoy God, enjoy the purpose in which God had for you that day, and do everything you possibly can to promote him and to give him the glory. Or at least pray for the things that are going on around you, the things that are happening every single week. And if you're a newsworthy person, then you know what I'm talking about. Okay? It says this should give us great comfort knowing that God is doing something. God is not asleep. He's not falling down on the job. He's here. But often it doesn't. We want details. Yet even when we have details, we often still don't understand. The rest of the book of Habakkuk is about God trying to explain to Habakkuk what he is doing. But just as God predicted, Habakkuk didn't understand. God is always apt for it, but sometimes he uses unlikely tools. As a result, even if God did try to explain what he was doing in our lives and in our world, we wouldn't get it. But we can rest assured that he is doing something. Just like we were off base when we judged the road crew, when we were talking about at the beginning of the chapter. We're often off base when we look at God. We see the mess around us and we don't understand what he is doing. When road construction is happening, we often wonder, will they ever get done with this mess? I've said that a million times, because I'm in construction all the time. I see it all the time. And when they finally do, we drive on the road every day, often forgetting the mess that once was, not me, because it seems like 5 miles down the road, they do it again. God has been cleaning up mess since the day Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit. God is always doing something. Any comments? Any comments? Always doing something. He's busy. Don't think he's not busy. And with our world being the way it is, he's extremely busy. The amount of people that live here every day that he has to take care of. He's doing something. He's doing something. Frank?
You know, when Noah was involved in the big flood that destroyed the world, that was by water, I think he's going to destroy it again. Because we're just getting worse and worse. We're sure that we're not paying attention when he's telling us. Do our thing. We just talk about.
God said to Noah from the rainbow, what did the rainbow signify?
That he wouldn't destroy us again by water.
Yeah. And Revelation said the world is going to end how? Fire. So he's going to take care of this world and everything in it, and it's going to happen by God. Now, I'm not saying that we won't destroy it. Don't get me wrong. We can do some crazy things as humanity. In our history, we have done that with millions and millions of people have lost their lives. I'm not saying that one day one of these people from another country or maybe this country will push a button and we get a oops. That don't mean that it's the end of the world. That's going to be very difficult living here under those circumstances. But if the church don't pray for leadership around the world, remember, there are some people in our world that don't care about death and the loss of life. So if you give them, in the world in which they live in, a tool of mass destruction, they will use it because they don't care. You see what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean it's going to be the end of the world, because God said he's going to destroy the world by fire next time. And he will. It's coming. And you know, just like in the days of Noah, people are going to be caught off guard because they're going to be doing what they want to do the way they want to do it every single day. And they're not going to think that it's real. Just because Jesus predicted it, humanity laugh at warning. We have a tendency, well, number one, we fear the things that we can't see. If there's something beyond something, we become very fearful of it. But it's because we can't see God, we're fearful of death. The average person don't want to die. And the average Christian want to go to heaven, but they don't want to die to get there. So death is terrifying to everybody. Because nobody has come back and say, hey, look, it's okay. See, even the greatest of faith believers are like that. You know, when you're laying down there and you gasping to take your last breath, some people welcome it, some people don't, because at that particular time, you see a world coming that you can't explain. And this is what Habakkuk had a problem with. I can't see what you're doing. But to understand God is to understand how you got to where you are. Then you will see what God is doing. There's a lot of times in our prayer life, we pray for things that we shouldn't pray for because God is disciplined. But we have such compassion toward those people or that person or that loved one that we get impatient with what God is doing with those and that and it in their life. Because there are consequences to what we do. God can't stop those kinds of things. So we get very, very detached in God's business, not understanding the full picture, which God has already seen. God knows why a person at 3 o'clock in the morning is crying. God knows why sin hurts. God knows the consequences of that action that we are getting ready to commit that will cause us a lifetime of heartache and pain. God knows these things. We don't. When things are fine, we move on. And with these people right here, when things were fine, they moved into someone else's religion. And that has always irritated God. And that's a warning sign because it's written as the Old Testament books. It's a warning sign for Christianity. Don't substitute me. God is not in the second-hand business. So don't substitute me. So anything that's going on in our lives and the idols that we have in our lives, we have to understand God is always first. But it gets confusing sometimes because we don't see. And God said that. He wrote it. He said, your thoughts are not my thoughts and your ways are not my ways. As good as we try to be, we still miss the boat. God's primary purpose every single day for humanity is get as many as he possibly can in the waters of baptism so he can eternally get them home. God ain't got nothing to do with the way things are going. He's going to take care of the finances in the world. He's going to take care of the diseases in the world, the drought in the world, the pestilence in the world. That's what God do. God's purpose in humanity's existence is to get people to the water, get them in it, down under it, up so he can get him to the eternal place where he is. That's his primary purpose. And we have to get on board with that. And no matter what we have done and what the church has suffered through, remember, collectively, when we do things individually, we affect the body of Christ. It has always been that way. It's always been that way. So, just think about that. Just give that some thought. As you go through this chapter and we finish it up with the questions, we give it some thought. Somebody read the last section here on cool down, page 65.
God wants you to bring your complaints to him. He may not give you the answer you want. He may not give you an answer you can understand. He may not answer you at all. But that doesn't mean that he didn't hear. He is honored by your request, and he will do something. Once Habakkuk heard this vital truth, his sob turned into a song. Though the fig tree does not bloom, bud, and there are no grapes on the vine, though the olive crop fails, and the field produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen, and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. Habakkuk 3:17-19. Our God is never asleep. He is always doing something.
Okay. God is never asleep. He's always doing something. He's always in charge and on board. Question number 1. Atheists often use the argument of suffering to disprove God's existence. How can the discussion between God and the Bible help us understand suffering? What is suffering? Should be interesting. The answers right there. What is the Webster definition of suffering?
Something that we go through, like it could be sickness, it could be like when you have destruction in your neighborhood or wherever, flood, fire, things like that.
Anybody else?
The dictionary said the state of underlying pain, distress, or hardship.
What was the other one? Pain, distress, and what?
Hardship.
When you're suffering, can you see clearly? The loss of reasoning. What are some of the first things you lose when you suffer? If it is the loss of reasoning, before we get to the pain, distress, and the hardship, what are some of the first things in that process of suffering? You all know the story of Job very well. It don't take you 2-3 chapters before you can everyone just applaud and answer the question. Suffering brought Job what immediately? What were some of the things that Job went through immediately? Before we get to the pain, distress, and the hardship, the loss of reasoning, what happened to him immediately? Everything, he lost everything, one by one, one after another.
He started doubting.
Doubt. Doubted who?
God.
Before God, who did he doubt? Yourself. Why?
Because he done something.
He had accomplished so much. So to lose everything that he accomplished, he had no answer. So he doubted himself. He doubted himself. His whole discourse toward God was, what did I do wrong? I thought I was doing everything right. So his loss of reasoning multiplied his pain, his distress, and his hardship. Because God never said he did anything wrong. But he didn't have, number two, faith to believe that. We get to that point in suffering. When we start seeing things crumble around us, when we start having physical pain, when we start having emotional pain, we start having financial problems, we start doubting the many, many blessings that God has already given us and got at our disposal in prayer. But just like any kind of discipline at all, any kind of love at all, there are some times when God wants us to understand, stand up. It's going to rain. Matter of fact, it's raining right now. I'm the umbrella. It's going to be okay. No matter how long it takes, it's going to be okay. Because ultimately, I'm here on the other side. Hardship, distress, pain, loss of reasoning is going to happen every day the sun comes up and goes down in the world in which we live in. God is detached from that. So for an atheist to say suffering brings no God, the atheist doesn't understand what he or she is saying about their own thought process. See? Because in order to blame God for bad things, you should have the same ability to give him credit for good. But see, that's never the argument. What about for every child that dies, every child that we see lose in a fire, every child that we see lose by some sort of horrible act? What about the blessed ones that live? And the ones that made it, that wasn't aborted? What about all the good things that happen every day? But we always hone in on the bad things, and then we blame the eternal creator for those little bitty things that's going to happen every single day. And if we don't protect life itself in general, something is going to happen. Something is going to happen tomorrow. I gave you that outline of how many people die daily, monthly, and yearly. Those are studies from around the world. I gave you that so you can see that in the world in which we live in, suffering is part of that work. And there's many, many books out on this. This is nothing new biblically. You know how many authors write about suffering or have written about suffering, trying to get us to cope with it, deal with it, so these things don't take us out? When you don't have any answers, God always got the answers. But will you rely on the answers in which he's giving you? Like, hold on, wait a minute, time out. That's not the proper way to talk when I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Have faith in what I'm doing. I know it doesn't seem right to you, but have faith in what I'm doing because you don't see the big picture. You and I we just don't see the big picture. That's all it is.
In order, I guess one thing for us in order to understand with this conversation with atheists is we got to grasp the concept of cause and effect. We live in a realm of cause and effect, right? Your seasons work off cause and effect. So even if you take the conversation about God to the side, you'd be hard pressed to get an atheist to show you something in this life that will operate without cause and effect. Meaning, in order for me to gain muscle, I have to lift weights. When I lift weights, I have to tear my muscle. And in the day that it's healing, the blood will rush to the area that I tore. And every other day when I keep doing that, my muscles will get bigger. That's how your body works. In the tearing process, that hurts. But once you achieve your goal, you get what you're looking for. That's the point. Like, people make it a big deal as if God is the only thing operating that way. An atheist as a parent, no parent could parent in a way where they can assure their child from birth that they themselves, not the world, that they themselves will never cause that child pain. Impossible. Right? Like, that's why I think it's interesting that people always jump to this argument with God. Even if you put God to the side, show me a country, show me an organization, show me a parent, show me a gym, show me how I can buy a house without not spending. Like, everything in this world is a sacrifice to achieve a goal, right? Time, right? I've got to not go out to study to pass a test. I can't go out and not study and pass the test. Right? I can't spend my money and have money. That would be great, Black Friday, if I could blow a check and the next day I still have my money. That's why they say you can't have your cake and eat it too. So people put this on God, but that's why I always say, well, then show me anywhere in the world that we live where there is nothing resulting from cause and effect. That's why I like how when God let Habakkuk complain, he answered him in page 64, so he didn't tear him down. He said, look at the nations and watch and be utterly amazed, for I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe even if you were told. Meaning is you got to finish the movie. And atheists don't want to finish the whole story, right? Like, yes, if in this day, whenever something happens to us individually or in the world, in that moment, there is a lot of pain, but the world's not over yet, right? Like, there's still more story left. You got to judge God by looking back at things to be like, yes, while I'm lifting weights, I want to quit. But the trainer is showing you, hey, look at this picture of somebody before and after. Look at this picture of somebody before and after. They're trying to get you to see is look what other people have done. So I always think for us, because sometimes we may face these conversations with people, always put it back on them to show you how the world operates. Show how do finances operate? How do health operate? How does parenting operate? Like, before we bash God, this is the world that we live in. Period, just in general. So to me, God is showing him the past, the present, and the future based off of his track record. And it's very difficult for people to see that. That's why it's important for us to realize that in our walk with God is when we get down and out, we got to look at where God has already brought us through to remind us he won't leave us in the state that we're in. But the atheists won't finish that story. They always hold God to a standard that they're not willing to live themselves. Because if you show me an atheist that can say, a lot of atheists are parents. You say, do you even feel that you have been a perfect parent? No. Can you show me somewhere in this world? If there's no God, let's put God to the side. Show me something perfect. Can I look somewhere? Can I go somewhere? Even with math, there's decimal points. That's why I think it's hilarious that everyone always makes a big deal about God, but the world they live in has pain and suffering, cause and effect. How come you never say anything about the planet you're standing on? But something must be wrong with God, whom you don't believe. Then fix your own life. How come atheists can't fix even their own last name? Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? Like, that's how I think we don't always think to answer people that way. We're always looking for a book, chapter, and verse. But I didn't give book, chapter, and verse in my response just now. I would ask them back, right? Like, God is asking Habakkuk back. Like, look, he's not giving him a definitive, like, on this day, trust me, this will happen. He's saying, I did this already, and in the future, I'm going to do this. You got to trust and obey. So that's one thing, because I think sometimes we feel inadequate to answer certain people, especially in work, because we either can't remember the verse or we feel like we don't know. But you don't need to know the whole Bible to ask someone to prove the things that they do every single day. That's what he did to Job, right? He asked Job, where were you? So to me, that's one of the things that I would encourage us with from this question one, is always ask people to look around and hold themselves in the world they live in to the same standard they want to hold God to. Show me a perfect marriage, show me a perfect anything in this world where there's not a cause and effect, and I'll believe what you're saying. I can't find it. That must mean that why would I discount a higher being when the people in this world, the smartest people in this world, they can't even fix their own situation? Why would I believe in what they're saying over what God is saying? Because I can show what God has done, at least in my life, to prove that he's real to me. That's how I would always answer this sort of question.
Okay, atheists keep God out of the picture because they always like to attack God. So what I just did right there, and some of y'all watched it, I went to my text and I looked at it and I read it. It took me over 3 seconds to do that. Now, how many of us in this room text while we drive or answer a text? Just be honest. I mean, you answer a text or the phone ring, you peep at it, you see who it is. The state police said that any distraction that takes more than 3 seconds will get you into motor vehicle trouble. You will go cross the line. You would lose your traveling distance and your braking distance. These are facts. Okay. Now, for the data that has come out about text, and that's why they're making it illegal, and some states now won't let you wear earplugs, like Massachusetts. When you hit someone, you injure someone, is that suffering?
Yeah.
Who caused that?
You did.
Did God cause that?
No.
Okay, let's take the cars out of it, because people have an endless argument pointing to God. We should never invent cars. Well, did God invent cars?
No.
God brought the mindset about for man to do better for himself. But why is God always taking the blame for something that we do? Well, when we had horses and buggy, weren't we running over people?
People still die.
Before there was guns, weren't we hitting people with sticks and stabbing people with knives? Why is God always the problem to things that we can't fix when we create? Everybody know when life starts, right? Everybody know that. Why is it called a fetus when men and women, there's nothing spontaneous about sex. We all know that when a man and a woman come together, what happens? That has been since Adam and Eve. Why is God the problem to the population and the overpopulation of the world? Why is God always getting blamed for stuff that men and women do every single day willfully? God is not the problem. And what God is trying to get Rebecca to see is, I got this stuff under control. I'm fixing this. And it's going to be a beautiful thing when I fix it. But it happens every day to God.
And he didn't cause this. They did.
And God didn't do anything wrong. God gave stipulations that if you do this, you do that, and you do this, you will prosper. The womb will be this. You'll have children. You have male kids. You have female kids. The animal kingdom will produce. God is telling all these blessings if you do the right thing. If you don't do the right thing, why is it God's fault if we don't do the right thing? We go to jail because of what? We break the law. Every time you drive over, I drive over 55 miles an hour all the time, and I'm so nervous. I be looking to see where the cops are and everything, knowing that that speed limit said 55, knowing that it says 65, knowing that it says 25. And I'm looking down, I'm doing 35 in a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone. I have no argument. Amen? I have no argument. But why am I praying to God when the lights come on behind?
Because that's when you need help.
That's when I need help.
For some grace, a little mercy.
Habakkuk wants God to stop things because of what he sees. God doesn't see it that way. God has already seen the effect of what people are doing. God has to stop the effect from the cause because it won't stop. That's what he told Adam. The day that you eat of the fruit, your eyes are going to be open, and the reasoning between right and wrong, you won't be able to control in the spirit. I'm going to cause death because I can't have you live eternally in rebellion to me. But Adam didn't see that, just like every prophet didn't see it, just like Habakkuk's not seeing it now, just like the disciples didn't see it, and just like the church don't see it. We don't see the urgency of God's business. We just don't. And we just move right along in life, blaming God for things that he shouldn't be heavy for. He shouldn't be heavy for, because he created us to have a free will, but with that free will, he created us in his image to understand what that is. And if we just pay attention and live accordingly, we will have a great time. Things will be less stressful in our life if we just do what God asks us to do. There is no such thing as a dying atheist. Because when that death angel come for all of us, it ain't gonna be you. Tell me you don't believe in it. See, it's not gonna be. See, I've been in hospitals. I've been in nursing homes. I've heard people scream it out. I've heard people say things like this: "God, forgive me." Screaming out in another room, "Forgive me for the things I've done." When I didn't believe it. I'll tell you all this story when I was in New Jersey several years ago. This lady walked by with these two children and said, "God, why I know my life is like this, because I committed adultery." Walking with a children. I was just sitting there laying down after I had a sandwich at Burger King. And I started praying for the kids. The next year I seen the kids and her walking on the other side of town, in the industrial side of town. The kid didn't have no gloves on his hand. I had tears in my eyes because I prayed a year before that these children would make it. And I thank God that I seen her. She's walking on the shoulder road real fast with her children. But she said, "Forgive me." Because her circumstances brought her to the place that she's in. Forgive me. And that's who we should go to. We should go to God in our time of need. We should go to God and be very specific about things, because there is a cause and effect for that. Now, because of that, she's what? One parent now. She's what? Without an income now. These are the things that follow the natural laws of living that we forget about when we do the things that we do. And as human beings, we mess up so much, it's pitiful, because we don't think things through. We don't. And all of us have been there, and all of us have done that. And it's just mankind in the way we are. That's why we can't get on one another when we fail, when we fall short, when we fall down. Because somebody in the room will say, "You know, I've been there, I've done that." Amen? I've been there, I've done that. But I know what was good for me, and that was God. God has got me back up on my feet. He's got me walking in the right direction, and it feels much better now. But we have to understand, he sees everything, and he sees what's going to happen. Just like parents tell children, we don't want to be in your business. Please understand that parents don't want to be in kids' business. We got enough business of our own. What we do want is for you to understand that if you don't at least take at least 30% of what we're saying, it's going to be tough. Because we've done that. We've screwed up so much, it's pathetic. And we're just trying to get you not to do it. But if you don't want to listen, there's a cause and effect for that. It is. But God sees all of that as our world is turning. He's saying in their 5th year, they're going to suffer because of this. Remember back in the day when those hatchbacks were blowing up? The Datsuns, they put the gas tanks outside the rail, the pickup trucks, when you had side collisions and stuff, and the vehicle would just blow up. And then we found out that Ford and some of the manufacturers, their thing was, we'll make 200,000 cars. We're set up for lawsuits for 7 deaths. Let's say 7 of our cars blow up. We're set up for that. But we can't go back and change our whole design, because that would bankrupt us. So we would take a chance this year go into litigation. Next year, we'll take the money, some of the money that we profit, we'll make a better car to make that not happen again. That's why you get recalls all the time, because the outside vendors think the same way. For so many cars that we build, one of the brake boosters not going to work. Now, that may cause a fatality. That may cause bodily harm. But we have made so much money on the car and the part that we can go into litigation for that. So people even thinking about manufacturing and doing what they do every single day and doing it wrong, taking a risk, knowing that for money's sake, something is going to happen, but it weighs out the risk. Because we can always go in and drag it out and just pay people a fraction of what we knew it was going to cost for that particular thing. And in a year's time, we'll make a better product. That's the way the world thinks. God sees that happening down the road. He sees that happening down the road. So instead of giving God credit for insight and wisdom and knowledge, we get upset because we don't see what God sees. We can't, because we refuse to be on the same table that he's on and do the things that he do. So think about that. Think about that. Is it acceptable to complain to God? Why or why not? Complaining to God gets you where? Okay. So what the question says, why or why not? Why? It gets you nowhere. Does God hear your complaints?
Yes.
He hears everything you say. Everything you say to God, God listens. Sometimes God gets frustrated with the redundance, but he listens to everything you say. Why? Why does he listen to everything we say, even when we complain to him? Why? Because he loves us. He loves us. It's as simple as that. He loves us. I know it's hard for us to believe. I know it's hard for us to understand, hard for us to fathom. Even when we're complaining to God, he loves us. He loved Job. He loved Jonah. That's why the story is in the book. Even in our complaint, God wants us to be sensitive to the things that we're going through because he can help, because we are a mess. What other passages say God's ways are beyond our understanding? What other passages? God's ways are beyond our understanding. It's true, and thank God.
Also, I'll say is too is with this 2 into 3 is it's a difference between like giving God your concerns and complaining. Because if Philippians 2:14 says, "Do all things without grumbling," so that we don't understand that fully. Or it says without grumbling or arguing or disputing, which is talking about in context for spiritual things. But it's a difference between complaining like, why don't I have a better job, and wondering about spiritual well-being for people, right? Like Habakkuk is wondering why these bad things are happening for spiritual reasoning still. And then when you look at this in a context of God's ways are beyond your understanding, I think that's why the author put that question in there, because that will help you. That will help you in terms of your understanding. But I think people should understand that already, because one of the most annoying things for an adult is a kid complaining. That's the God honest truth. So I don't see how people don't understand that. Nobody want to work all day and come home, and especially a mom. Let's say you stopped, you could have watched TV and you made food instead. The last thing you want to hear is someone to say, why you made this don't taste good. How come we can't eat this instead? No one would want to hear that. So again, you holding God to a standard that you don't want to be held to. Who want to sit up listening to complaining? It is one of the most annoying things to me on earth. Because complaining changed tone of voice. Even the tone of voice of complaining is annoying. It get high pitched and it's almost piercing. You can't even hear words anymore. It's just nagging.
Whining.
Yeah, whining. Yes. Who likes whining? Whining is so annoying.
It's unfortunate, but we treat the Almighty sometimes like, I don't say disrespectful, but I think we treat God without thought, without a purpose. And it hurts him to know everything and to hear everything. Every time I see a Superman movie, I think of God. Because Superman hears everything, but he has to decide which is the greater. Isn't that amazing? But we don't understand God. God hears everything, but he has to decide which is the greater as this world turns that I need to pay attention to before they kill themselves. And as fast as Superman was, Superman could not be everywhere at the same time. So that means some folks, what? Didn't get saved. Didn't get pulled out. Or a bridge, Superman couldn't hold up 5 of them, so some cars went into the water. See? That's the pressure that God is under every single day. So when you and I start complaining, God is scratching his head and saying, my Lord, why is the church complaining? I understand why the world is complaining, but I don't understand why the church is complaining. I got this. Donna?
I think part of it is not understanding God, right? It is impossible for us to fully understand God. It's just impossible. And that's by plan and design on God's part, because then we'd be thinking we are God, right? So that's the first thing, not really understanding God, but also not trusting, because this is where the faith comes in, and it becomes a heart condition, not trusting God to have your best interest or being able to work it out. So no matter what the suffering is, good, bad, and or indifferent, because sometimes God will use for his greater purpose and glory the sufferings of the world or things that are happening to accomplish his plan and his purpose. And so while it may be viewed by others as unfair, why is this happening? We can't see the bigger picture. But if we have faith and we trust God, we can say as Christians that no matter what, we know that God is going to work this out for his greater glory. It's going to happen. But when we're going through it, I think that's where the difficulty comes in. We get a little like, why is this still happening? Does God care? Of course he cares. Why is this happening? Does God see the effect? Of course he does. But what is it doing for you? Is it bringing you to your knees? Is it causing you to have a closer relationship with God? Is it causing you to trust God? Is it causing you to pray more? Looking at the bigger picture instead of the "oh, woe is me" kind of thing. So I think part of it is just not really understanding God. And it's okay, you can admit that, I don't fully understand God, right? All of us should say, I don't understand. I don't fully understand God. I don't know what is the ultimate purpose is for next week. Someone says God closes the door today, he'll open one tomorrow or next week. I don't know what the door looks like, right? Mm-hmm. But I know he's got me covered. That I know. So whatever happens for the greater, whatever, because when he gives us some of these things we're whining about, complaining about, just to see what we're going to do with them, those are sometimes things that can destroy us. But we can't see the destruction.
In closing, I want you guys to jot down, and if you can, for the woes of life, in chapter 2, from 2 to 4, and this will sum up what we've been talking about, and especially what Sister Stanley just said. And let's read it. This is in the New Testament too. The just shall live by faith. You know that. It says, the Lord answered me and said, after all this is said and done, you know how God is. God just lets you get it all out. Write the vision and make it plain on tablets. Make it plain. Don't confuse people. Don't get wordy. Don't talk over their head. Make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come and will not tarry. Behold the proud, his soul is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. So look at all the things that have gone on in your lifetime, and look at all the people that have done things that they've done and got away with it. Look at how it ended for them. Was it pretty? No. No. Even though it tarries, wait for it, because I'm going to take care of it. So just write that down and just remember those lines. And remember that is the theme, the whole outline of this book. The just shall live by faith. This is my business. I got it under control. There's a big world that's turning. You're not the only one in it. You're not the only one with problems. You're not the only one with medical problems, financial problems. The world is turning. And I got to keep this world at the speed that I created it. Because if I don't, humanity is lost. And that's not what I want. I'm God. All right? Okay. We end right there. Gratefully get ahead and read chapter 11 for next week. Chapter 11 for next week.
I forgot to write down that